Who's ready for a classic 30-minute wrap-up from me? Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Hey, what's up? I'm Allie, and welcome back to my channel. It's been like 3 weeks since I filmed a video, so this feels very weird right now. So, in June, I didn't do a wrap-up for May because there was some books in it that I didn't really want to talk about yet. Anyway, I'm still not done that video, so we're just going to talk about them today. So today I'm going to do my May and my June wrap-up. We're probably going to fly through the May part because I mostly just did some rereads. So there's going to be timestamps down below. So if you want to skip around to whatever it is that you're interested in finding out the review for, there you go. Let's go ahead and let's get on to this. So I'm going to go ahead and just get the rereads out of the way. I did do 2 rereads. I thought I'd had more. I was having trouble getting into reading, and Amanda and Vanessa, if you guys don't know, they're booktubers here and they are my best friends. We kind of want to just do something together, so we decided to do a buddy reread of A Court of Thorns and Roses series. So that's what we reread. I give these 5 stars as always. These aren't my first time reading them. They're not even my second time reading them. And this time was just so much fun. One, because I decided to highlight and tab up my reread this time in a whole new copy. So I have these. They're lovely. Anyway, so that was fun. Just a fun thing. If you guys don't know what this is about, I don't know where you have been. This is about a girl who ends up going into Fae territory because she kills a Fae, and they're like, a life for a life, but you don't have to die, you just have to come live in the Fae world. And then she finds out that there's a curse upon the Fae world, and so she wants to get to the bottom of that because of course she's afraid it's going to come into the human lands, but it's mostly romance, honestly, so that's all you need to know. Honestly, I just really like that. I think I would like to do that for a lot of my favorite series, just go in with new copies because I'm weird and highlight and write in them because I enjoyed that, but it makes me too nervous if it's the only copy that I have. And plus I already had double copies of those anyway, so let's get into the other things that were a read for the first time for me. One of the first things that I read was The Weight of Lies, and this is a mystery thriller, and what mostly intrigued me about this is that it's about a woman whose mother is a very famous author. She decides that she's going to write a story about how awful her mother actually is. So in order to do that, she has to go and look into the past because there's been some accusations that her mother actually wrote the story about a real murder, and there's all these conspiracy theories around her mother, so she wants to get to the bottom of it. So she goes to this like island resort type thing, back roads kind of thing, a little more abandoned. So she ends up going there and getting to know the people there who were actually involved when her mother was there. So she is trying to get to the bottom of that. This was way more action-packed than I thought it was going to be, and I really enjoyed it. I just really had to know like what was going to happen next. At the end, I felt very confused about a lot of the things that had happened, but I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was just really entertaining. It was really engrossing, and I just had to know what was going to happen next. 4 out of 5 stars. Next, we have The Sparrow, and this is a sci-fi novel, and yeah, I don't normally do sci-fi. And this one was not only sci-fi, but it was also extremely religious heavy, which ain't not really my cup of tea. So this was, I don't even know how to explain this. Basically, it's about this group that had gone away on like an exploration and found this other planet. They basically had intercepted this radio call from another planet, and they go out and find this planet, and they kind of live among the inhabitants of this planet. And what happens is one of them comes back, and he is totally changed kind of deal, and there's a lot of like slander on his name and whatnot. And basically it's, you're finding out what has happened to him. Like, you go from the beginning, he's telling basically the story from the beginning, you kind of know what's already happened, and you go back to the beginning and you find out how this group came to be, how they found the radio transmission, how they went to this planet, and then you find out about the planet and how its society kind of works. It goes into a lot of kind of juxtaposition of the Bible versus this kind of universe, so it was interesting, but I personally felt it dragged on for years and years and years, and I didn't really like it that much. I did end up giving it 3 stars. I don't know why I gave it 3 stars. It's been so long, and honestly, I look back and I don't remember much just because it was so long, and I just personally felt it was a little dragged out. Interesting enough, but again, just more so out of my comfort zone, and something that I knew that I personally didn't care for, but the writing was fine. Then, another sci-fi. Children of Time. So, Children of Time is kind of similar in that it's about another planet with civilization. But the overall premise of this is that basically the world is falling apart, and so they have to go out and find new worlds to live on. Apparently there are multiple different Earth-type planets out there that they know of, and one is that they send basically these cells or organisms onto the planet, and the idea is that they will develop into monkeys and then develop into humans and then save humanity. And one woman goes and basically she is kind of frozen and put on like this life support system, and she kind of protects this planet. So it's years and years and years and years later, thousands of years later, and a new group of humans is trying to find a place to land and call home. Essentially, they have been woken up because they've also been frozen during this long time period, and they're like, we can live here because their planet is gone. So they go to land, and they find out that the organisms are they're not monkeys, and actually something went wrong, and they're spiders. Friends, do you know how excited I was when we found out that one of the main characters in this is a spider? Oh, I was thrilled. First of all, if you don't know, I really like spiders. I have a spider tattoo. I have a book about spiders. I just really enjoy spiders, okay? They're just very unique, and they don't really mean you any harm, okay? Anyway, one point of view is from the humans and kind of them trying to figure out what they're gonna do. And it's kind of about the downfall of like civilization and things like that, and how they kind of just keep, it's the same repeating pattern throughout history. And then we also are looking at, from the spider's point of view, and it's not just like they scuttle along and eat things. There's a whole civilization and society that the spiders go into. They have like their own thoughts and religions and math and science and stuff. So it's kind of based around that and how that works. And it was just, I mean, it takes place over hundreds of years. So it was just fascinating as you see how these civilizations kind of changed throughout that time period. Anyway, it was interesting, but again, this one was also very long, and at times I was just like, get to the point, come on, let's go. I think I got it. We can end it now, but no. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars as well. I do think it was more enjoyable than the Sparrow for me, but at the end of the day, they were both kind of similar. I felt that they were both kind of dragged out, and yeah. They just weren't my favorite stories of all time. I did really like the spider aspect. That was extra points, but overall, I could have gone without, you know, all that talk just to get the same point across. So yeah. Then we have the guest list. I was really intrigued. It's very kind of Agatha Christie-esque. There's a wedding happening at like this old decrepit kind of castle type building. It's beautiful, whatever. A bunch of rich people together, and then you find out someone is dead. The thing is, you don't know who is dead, and you really don't know who done did it or why they done did it, but you know that everyone is obviously connected because it's a wedding and everyone knows everybody. But you get into, of course, more aspects of their lives, and you find out how people are connected, which normally, I love those stories. I love small town drama type stuff because that's basically you find out who's connected to who and what and why. But this one just fell flat for me. It didn't have the same, I guess, the same feel that I tend to like with those kinds of stories. And it felt more like a bunch of rich frat bros just talking about stories, and I did not care at all. Like, they all seemed just so entitled and annoying, and I just hated it. And I kind of guessed at what was happening pretty early on, which kind of ruined the overall surprise because you don't find out anything until like literally the very end, and I had already kind of guessed it. So that really took away from it for me, just because it felt just very cliche, I guess, in the end, and I would have liked something just a little bit different. And then there was also some convenient things that happened, like everything just was placed together so conveniently in the end, and I was just like, wasn't that great? No, I didn't care for it. The writing was just meh, and the characters were really so it just wasn't. This was a really disappointing read for me, just because I was kind of looking forward to it. I'm giving this 2 stars, which was probably pretty generous. And then I also read The Song of Achilles, and you might be guessing where this secret TBR had been leading if you are looking at some of the books that I read. But Song of Achilles, so I love Circe. Madeline Miller's Circe is one of my all-time favorite books. I believe it's on display back here. So I had wanted to try Song of Achilles, but I've heard a lot of people say that they don't feel the same, and I was really nervous about that. But I will say Madeline Miller's writing is fantastic. I just love it. I love how it can feel historical and just so well based in that. It just has quite the atmosphere to it, and while still maintaining these like very original, more modern-esque kind of stories. Achilles is basically about Achilles, but you're from the point of view of, and I cannot pronounce his name, Patroclus, an outcasted prince essentially, and he goes to live with Achilles and his father. So he goes to live with Achilles, and him and Achilles get a very strong bond. And of course you learn about some things that had been prophesized pretty early on, and kind of the growth that they go through, because they meet as kids, and then as they get older all the way into adulthood, and you find out how their connection changes and grows, and just how these prophecies come to light in a way that like you wouldn't expect. But overall I just really liked it. I like the atmosphere. I love like mythology type retellings, and I just really enjoyed this. This is probably one of my favorite reads of the year to date. I just need more mythology retellings. Like, these are so good, and I need her to come out with something like immediately right now. I loved it. I love the atmosphere. I love the story. I love the connections. I loved the characters and their flaws. It was just so good. 5 out of 5 stars, because again, I do think this is one of my favorite reads of the year. Alright, then we're getting into the things that I read in June. I didn't read that much in June, honestly, so I really had like no desire to read much of anything. I had a really hard time sitting down to read anything. I felt just very stressed and kind of out of it for most of June. Some of the world events were part of that, but also because I did take on some more responsibilities at work, and we were opening up and things like that. So it was just a combination of a lot of things, and reading just wasn't helping at the time. What I did listen to was All Boys Aren't Blue. This is one of the first things I listened to. I listened to it basically within like a 24-hour period. This is a memoir of George M. Johnson. Grew up as being gay, and kind of the people in his life and things like that. One of the libraries in Maryland actually did a kind of live stream with him, and I did watch that, and it was very moving, and he's just so well spoken, and I just really enjoyed that. Also, this book had me crying within like the first few pages of it. It was just so good, so moving, and I would recommend anyone to read it. I just thought it was just so raw and passionate, and just so real. So I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I also think it's hard to rate people's lives, but this was just so well written and just so well done. Then I read A Taste of Sage, and this is a romance. So this follows Lumi, and basically she wants to open up her own restaurant. She has one, and then it goes under. And basically there is someone who owns a very successful restaurant down the street, and he is a jackass. Any run-ins that she's had with him, he's been a total jackass. So there's an opening, and without realizing it, she applies for the opening, and they end up working together in the same restaurant. So of course, there's some tension there. They got a little bit of hate to love going on. It was overall cute read. There were some things that had me like, yeah, there were some things in it that made me a little uncomfortable, but I easily skimmed over those. I was mostly just looking to read this book for funsies, and for the most part it was fun. It did what it needed to. There's some pretty good steamy scenes in this that I was listening to out loud, and I was like, pause, put in earphones and continue on my way. Yeah, overall it was fun. I give it 3 stars. It wasn't anything like exciting or mind-blowing or anything like that. It was just a good time. Then I read A Blade So Black. I've been putting this off for forever, and you guys had voted for me to read this, start reading this on my birthday. So, an Alice in Wonderland retelling, but even in the story itself, it's like Alice in Wonderland meets Buffy. Basically, she finds out that she can see what are called nightmares, and she is being trained by Hatta, and he's from Wonderland and knows all about it. But basically, she's being trained to go in and fight these nightmares before they can make it into like the human world. Things happen along the way, and she finds out that someone from long ago in the history of Wonderland is kind of after her and after her friends, and they are unsafe, so she has to go into Wonderland and try to kind of defeat this person. And it was really good. I really like this whole new take. I do wish that we had spent more time in Wonderland. I'm excited because I do think the next one spends more time in Wonderland. This one mostly just takes place in the city. So I'm excited to see more. I really love Hatta. Okay, so I'm very excited to see what happens there. But this was really good. I'm giving it a 4.5 stars. I didn't give it a full 5 stars just because I did feel like there was a decent amount of info dumping happening. Like right off the bat, there's some info dumping, and then halfway through it, there's some info dumping, and it's like instead of learning details along the way, we're kind of just given the history of things like right off the bat immediately. So, and there were times where I had to look back and I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, I couldn't keep quite the histories that were info dumped at the time kind of straight, so that was my only main issue with it. Then the next thing that I ended up reading was White Fragility, and this is a nonfiction, and it is about white people facing white fragility, dealing with their racism and the things that have been ingrained in them that are racist, and kind of confronting that. So I listened to this. I will say for the most part, like the first half of it was mostly things that I felt like I personally had already researched into or have known from just my own life experience, so I didn't personally find the first part of it helpful, but the second part I thought was pretty interesting because it's not only about confronting yourself but also possibly confronting others about racist things. So I do think that it is a somewhat useful book. I did give it 4 stars, even though I definitely think that there's probably better options out there. Now, I have been seeing discussions being had that one, it's by a white author and that she's trying to profit off of racism, and also that white-splaining racism, and I honestly feel like that's kind of the point of the book because this is for white people. I don't think that this book is for anyone of color, honestly, because it's definitely focused on the issues with white people and the erased histories that we've done and the problems that we have. So I definitely think that this is more for that. I also think that this is very beginner level because another issue is that this author doesn't point out really ways to fix it, and I really don't think that this story ever promises to do that. It's just kind of making you face any white people face the racism. So I definitely think that this is a starting point. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to teach you really to be that much better of a person. So again, a lot of people are saying that there's a lot better books to be finding on these topics, but I do think that this is like the very first stepping stone of finding our racisms and doing better. So this is more for people who haven't done any research, who are just now waking up to the fact that they might be racist. Where y'all been? So the sad part is those people probably aren't going to be the people to pick this up. Is it somewhat helpful? Yes. Is it helpful to the people who are probably looking to read it? Probably not. So, yeah, I'm seeking other things to read. Yeah. I do think that, again, this is the very bare minimum stepping stone at this point. Like, obviously there are better things to read and things that go into more depth into kind of fixing the problems in our society, but this is just like the bare minimum, making white people look inside themselves and at the issues that they have ingrained into themselves. So there's that. And then the last thing that I have to talk about is Cinderella is Dead. So this comes out like next week. Sort of retelling, but not really. Basically, Cinderella has already died, and the prince of this world is using, or the king of this world, is using Cinderella's story to kind of oppress women. It's an extremely misogynistic society. I was not expecting it to be as bad as it was. The overall story, basically, Cinderella has died. Again, her story is being used. Basically, it's saying that women have to go to the ball in order to find a husband to live their happily ever after, and that is law. If they don't find someone after 3 balls, they are forfeit, and most of the people just disappear. So this is about a girl who is in love with her best friend, who is also a girl, and basically she's like, I don't want to do this, none of us want to do this, the men here are awful, and I don't even want a husband. So she wants to run away, but of course that's, her friend is like, we have to follow the rules, like we have to be law-abiding citizens, and she's like, well, the laws are bullshit. So basically, she goes to seek the true story of Cinderella, and along the way, of course, she meets some friends, some characters that we're kind of familiar with, but with a whole new twist. So we get into that, and we get into the truth of what happened to Cinderella and what was really happening and what's currently happening in their kingdom and how they can take down this system, this very misogynistic system. I did like that it was very original. It kind of took a retelling, but didn't try to change that original story necessarily, and kind of took that and went with it in a whole new direction. I really liked that it took that story and it kind of twisted it into its own thing. We get some of those familiar characters, but in like a whole new light, and I just love the independence of the characters, and the overall storyline was really good. I thought the pacing overall was pretty good. My only real complaint is that I personally didn't really care for the characters. I didn't think that there was much development on them at any given time, and even the dialogue feels kind of rushed at times, and it's like they're in a disagreement with someone and they say one thing and all of a sudden the other person kind of agrees with them. So at times the dialogue just felt like it was lacking and the characters felt a little lacking, but overall I just thought the rest of it was really fun. It was really great. It was really new and unique. So I ended up giving this 4 stars. I just think I could have done with a little bit more of the character development. Just a little bit more. Oh my goodness, you're racist. I feel like I had talked for so long. Anyway, have you read any things? Do you plan on reading any of these things? What is my secret TBR? What am I doing? If you guys have liked this video, don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next one. Bye!